How it is, guys and gals? It's your boy Liam 2020, and today we're doing a breakdown on Monsters vs. Aliens, which I actually have right here, and I watched it. It's funny, but people don't really like this movie. They even consider it worse than Shark Tale, but which I don't know why. Shark Tale's bad. You know how much I despise Shark Tale, but this movie was actually decent. Though I do remember I was like now full backstory. I do remember I was just watching TV at my cousin's house, and he just threw this movie on. And that's how I first saw it. I actually picked it up and thought it was okay. So, yeah, I've heard to be fair, this movie is criticized for having bad animation, but I mean, the movie came out in 2009. Let me know in the comments what year you think this movie looked like it was made in when you first saw it. But, yeah. Now, so what is the film about? Like, what happens? So basically, we start in like space with two planets, most likely Neptune, which I can assume because that planet also has rings. Saturn's not the only planet with rings. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune have rings too, and then a smaller planet that looks like Pluto, most likely Pluto, even though Pluto's not really a planet. I mean, there was a green planet in Ice Age, which I assume would be Pluto as well. So I'm just gonna say it's Pluto here. So then Pluto blows up, and then we see a meteor heading towards Earth, and we get a cutaway. Like kind of like Family Guy. So two guys working for the alien task force in Antarctica. And yeah, I don't know why they chose Antarctica because, well, again, the season two finale, The Big Bang Theory, involved them working in Antarctica for a science project. So then they see the UFO because the one guy's like, "Dude, I've told you UFOs don't exist. We're never gonna see one." Then he sees it on the feed and it's like, Jesus Christ, what are we supposed to do? And then he literally picks up a phone after seeing that it's headed for Modesto, California. And then we get to the actual movie with basically starring Susan. Which the main plot of the film is it's basically Susan Murphy, voiced by Reese Witherspoon, woken up by her three friends at 5 in the morning. They turn on the news channel where Susan's fiance, Derek Deal, voiced by Paul Rudd, is actually on his show before their wedding and shows a montage of Susan getting ready and then pulling up at the church and meet everyone and then heading out to a gazebo where she talks with Derek for a bit before he heads into the church. And he does say that they're not going to Paris like Susan originally thought, and they're going to Fresno instead. Just for some job Derek got. And then the meteor we saw earlier ends up hitting Susan after she runs from it. Now I'm wondering what would have happened if the meteor hit Susan if she had ran back into the gazebo. Would have just hit her in there? Because again, the writers decide, how do we turn Protagonist into a giant? Have a meteor slam into her. So then Susan's mom comes out to get her, takes her into the church, and then when she gets to the altar, she starts glowing after Derek lifts up the veil, and then that's when her transformation starts. She starts growing. And her hair even ends up turning white during her transformation. The rabbi ends up jumping out the window, and everyone flees before she crashes through the fucking roof. And I'm actually giving like the Fandango Movie Clips channel. I'm saying this before we continue on, but they did Monsters vs. Aliens, and they gave it like the worst titles ever for these clips. So I'm replacing them with DLive 22891 style titles. DLive is a YouTube. He's my favorite YouTuber. If you had to sub to someone other than me, I'd say DLive. But back to the movie. The government actually arrived at church. They end up drugging Susan, and then they take her to a monster prison while everyone else moved away from the church. Susan wakes up in the prison, and she meets all her cellmates. And in case you're wondering, Susan is based off of the 50-Foot Woman, that movie Attack 50-Foot Woman from 1958. And yes, all the monsters in this movie are based off of monsters from the 1950s. So we have, I'll say them in the order they're introduced in. There's Cockroach, voiced by Hugh Laurie, based off of The Fly. Benzoate Osmozine Bicarbonate, I think. Or Bob for short, voiced by Seth Rogen, based off of The Blob. And Seth Rogen is actually one of my three favorite actors. The other two are Dwayne Johnson and Jim Carrey. Missing Link, voiced by Will Arnett, based off of the creature from the Black Lagoon, and then Insectosaurus, or Insect for short, based off of Godzilla. So then General W.R. Monger, who's running that monster prison, gives Susan a tour and of the place and tells them that's where monsters are kept before she's put in her cell with nothing but a cat poster. And Susan feels kind of lonely because it's like, why is there only a poster? Why is there no glass door on her cell like everyone else did? And also they changed Susan's name to Ginormica. But then we cut to Galaxar. I forget the name of the guy who does Galaxar. His computer in his ship, which looks like a fidget spinner. And his computer is voiced by Amy Poehler. And tells him that the meteor with the Quantonium, which was that stuff that Susan absorbed. And then Galaxar sends a robot down to Earth so he could retrieve it. Bob gave us some funny jokes in that prison scene. And then here's the next part. After the robot is sent, we cut to another Family Guy style cutaway with these two teens named Key and Cuthbert, and the license plate on their car says Gymnasty. They're talking before their radio goes out, and they were driving a convertible, so the roof opens. They see the robot, and Cuthbert wants to turn the car around, but Kitty goes in to see what it is, and then Cuthbert breaks his ankle after tripping over a fence, and Kitty literally has to carry him to the site. But then they see the robot, and the movie never explains what happened to them. Did they escape, or were they killed by the robots? So then the U.S. military arrives to check out Galaxar's robot, along with the President Hathaway. And no, the president is not based off of a real president in this movie, because neither George W. Bush or Barack Obama, I guess, didn't want to be a real life voice star in the film. So then I wonder if the U.S. is going to get a president like him someday in the near future. Who knows? Or maybe even the president who's president of the U.S. now. But then he goes up an extremely long-ass staircase and starts playing Axel F on a piano. And then the robot literally sends out a hand, which smashes the piano after the president leaves one finger on it. Then it pulls out its sidearms and lifts itself out of the ground, and then President runs down the stairs, takes a leap of faith, and tells the commander to do something violent, like literally in a kid's movie. I don't know if it seems like they got away with this, but again, I don't want to just refer to the Looney Tunes, because they would obviously get away with stuff like that. I guess MVA did get away with this shootout. Which, by the way, none of the bullets were effective against the robot. And they even start shooting fucking missiles at the robot, and they have no effect on it. So then the president gets back in his helicopter after shooting it, and then heads to a little underground lab sort of thing. And we literally see a dude scan his personal checks just so he can get it, like his face scrunched up like that, his hand, his elbow, his foot, and even his ass. Literally a bunghole scan. He runs in, the president gets himself a coffee, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And then that's when Monger shows up, and I'm guessing Monger had to do a bunghole scan too. And then he tells the president that he captured monsters over the past 50 years. It's like, seriously? 50 years you were capturing monsters, and you only caught those 5? Technically 6, but he starts showing all 5 monsters, and literally every time he shows a monster, there's this woman that screams. Shows Insect, she screams. Shows Link, she screams. Same thing for Cockroach, Bob, and Susan. And then they eventually agreed to the whole Monsters vs. Aliens idea. Roll credits. And then we see Bob and Link playing Go Fish, and Link is using Insect as a cheat, so the game's practically rigged. But then Cockroach steals some antennas, and he's trying to shrink Susan back to normal. He tries to shrink Susan, but fails. And then that's when we revealed there was a 6th monster that died 25 years prior to the events of the film. The Invisible Man. And then Monger tells the monsters they're getting out. They get in a ship, fly to San Francisco, and then they see the robot. And then Cockroach tells Susan to run towards the city to hide from the robot, and then Bob gets stuck on the robot's foot. He's like, I got him, you guys, I got him. And then he starts slamming him down as the robot walks. Cockroach tells Link to get to the city, and then he says, I'll try to catch up with you there. But then he sees a train and says, or maybe you'll have to catch up with me. We cut to Susan, who's trying to hide, but unfortunately the robot spots her and chases her. She climbs over a building, keeps looking over buildings, and then we see Link crawling through the sewer, and then he hits his head on the drainage pipe, crawls out, and then that's when Cockroach shows up with the train and picks him up. They're about to attack the robot, and then I never really got what was Cockroach's plan. And then Bob's like, "Hey guys, catch me!" He jumps in, and then they fall in the water. Like, what was Cockroach's plan if Bob hadn't jumped in? That was a really funny moment. Susan gets to the Golden Gate Bridge, and then the robot unfortunately catches up, and everyone on the bridge gets to run away from it. And then Insect arrives to stop, and then eventually Bob, Link, and Cockroach show up. And Susan pretty much has to do everything by herself because Link got knocked out on the deflector shield. Bob just got too busy eating all the dividers so that way everyone could escape. And the movie tricks you to believe that none of the cars that were eaten by the robot or smashed or fallen in the water, all those cars had nobody in them. And then Insect goes into a trance after the robot scans its eye light on him because of a failed attempt from Cockroach actually going inside the robot. Just so I don't even know what he was trying to do. But eventually, Susan defeats the robot, and Galaxar sees this from his ship, and he gets pissed and decides, I'm getting that Quantonium myself. And he pours coffee into his ear and spits it out through his mouth. I've tried pouring substance in through my ear and spitting it out through my mouth, but it's never worked before. So then they're talking on the ship before they land in Modesto, and then Susan heads to her parents' house and then introduces her parents to Bob, Link, and Cockroach. And then they're wondering what to do, and then Susan says, just put out some snacks. They'll eat anything. Followed by Cockroach eating out of a garbage can. That's a non-Bob punchline. And then the pool party just goes nuts. Link ends up falling into a pool after a failed jump on a diving board. Bob is talking to a Jello, which he actually, here, if you look at the, that's actually the Jello there that he's talking to, and kind of see how, and that's basically what Cockroach was doing at the party, what he's doing right there with the Pop Fizz, which blows up the whole stand. Link gets out of the pool, and then everyone runs away, and then we get their punchline. Bob stands there, he's like, where are they all running away from? Meanwhile, Susan attempts to meet up with Derek, which she does, but unfortunately, Derek ultimately turns her down, and it's like, yeah, I ain't spend the rest of my life in a 50-foot woman's shadow. It's like, what the fuck, dude? I'm pretty sure she's still the same as a giant as she was before she got hit by that meteor. So then Susan heads out to a gas station just outside of Modesto, and it turns out Bob, Link, and Cockroach headed to that exact same gas station. They talk for a while, and then Susan gets sucked up into Galaxar's ship. Insect tries to save her, but he gets shot. Susan's in the ship and gets in a cage, but then she eventually breaks free after Galaxar appears and tries to take her to the extraction chamber, which leads to a wild goose chase, and she ends up getting in the chamber, and it sucks all the Quantonium out of her body, which takes her back to her normal size. However, her hair stays white for some reason. And then Galaxar even has the Quantonium, saying that Susan stole the Quantonium. It's like, no, she did not steal it. It's just the meteor happened to hit her. So then Galaxar starts telling Susan, his backstory, but unfortunately, you end up missing, half the story because of the thing slamming Galaxar down. You can't hear him when it's in the down position. You can only hear him when it's in the up position. So, obviously, Susan only got, half the story. And then that's when the clones started appearing, and then Galaxar sends a message out to everyone on Earth telling them that he's going to send the clones down. And everyone panics before the president sees that and tells them, he's like, set the terror level of Code Brown, because I got to change my pants. We cut back to Bob, Link, and Cockroach at the gas station, and they decide, we're going to get Susan out of that ship. So then Monger picks them up, gives them jetpacks, and salutes them, and then Bob's like, that's rude, what do we do? Another funny punchline. But then Cockroach reassures Bob that saluting is not rude, it's a sign of respect. So then they go out of the ship and fly towards it, but unfortunately, Monger's ship gets shot down, and they land right on top of Insect. And the ground starts shaking. So they're inside, and then they start looking for Susan. They notice her. And then Bob decides, I have an idea. So they disguise themselves as Galaxar clones, and the disguises actually work. They eventually meet a Galaxar clone taking Susan to the incinerator. I mean, that's at least what it said. That's what they said. It was the incinerator. So then Cockroach has a plan to stop the alien invasion from happening. And I'm guessing that Galaxar was going to use the Quantonium on the clones and make them like super big, kind of like what we saw happen with Susan. So then Bob asks a clone, asking where the main power cord is. Like, yeah, it's right there above the extraction chamber. But then they accidentally blow their cover after Cockroach shoots the clone and Bob's disguise comes flying off. And Galaxar orders his clones to destroy the monsters, and it just turns into a wild fight. Susan grabs a gun and goes flying backwards, while Bob starts eating all the clones. And then Link and Cockroach start making their way through as well. They eventually reach the extraction chamber, and then Cockroach really starts dancing on like a dance pad until he eventually sets the ship to self-destruct. And then they get out of the extraction chamber and see the doors closing. So they try to make it through. However, the only one who makes it through is Susan. And then they tell her to go get her old life back, but then she admits that she doesn't want her old life back and that she actually preferred being a giant. So then she eventually confronts Galaxar, and then they start fighting until Susan manages to grab a gun, and then literally all the Quantonium was delivered to a clear spear directly above Susan. She shoots said spear, and it falls on her. And then she immediately goes back, frees Bob, Link, and Cockroach, and they get out of the ship. Monger's nowhere, and then... See, Monger even said that the only reason he wouldn't be there is if he was dead or late. But I'm guessing Cockroach either ignored that part, or he ignored the part where Monger said he was going to be late, or he missed it completely. So then it turns out Insect actually turned into a butterfly, and that's how they managed to get out. Galaxar's ship blows up, and they meet everyone down below. Derek tries to get back with Susan, but Susan just literally is like, fuck you, Derek, and flings him up in the air, and then Bob literally roasts him. And even shows him the Jello, and then they eventually head to a snail that was somewhere in Paris. And then we get another last line from Bob right before the credits roll. It's like, wait, you were dating Derek too? That two-timing jerk! Because he was roasting Derek again. So it was like, Bob, it's me he's never going to get over. Yeah, that's why this movie is better than Shark Tale. It could have been a little better if they had a few monsters that they missed, like Dracula, movie from the 1950s about Dracula, a few other monsters from the 50s. Considering that Monger had 50 years to capture those 5 monsters alone, like, jeez. And, yeah. Let me know in the comments, do you think this movie is better than Shark Tale, or do you think it's worse than Shark Tale? Because I give this movie overall 6 out of 10. Shark Tale is a just complete 0, because it had no humor. This movie had humor, at least. So that's why it's better than Shark Tale. So, yeah. Please like, sub, and peace.